The New Price is Right, later shortened to The Price is Right, is the absolute gold standard of game shows ever since its debut on September 4th, 1972. I wanted to begin my series by talking about the absolute best of the best when it comes to shows that give away large amounts of money and provide countless hours of entertainment. The original version of The Price is Right aired on NBC and later ABC from 1956 to 1965, enjoying a solid 9-year run. Hosted by the legendary Bill Cullen, this show was unique in its auctioneer style of bidding on items. Produced by Mark Goodson and Bill Todman, The Price is Right was the most successful game show in the United States, despite many shows being canceled as the result of the quiz show scandals of the 1950s. Only 7 years after The Price is Right's cancellation, Goodson and Todman would try to make lightning strike twice. The duo of producers had proposed a new version of the game which would take the main focus off of the item up for bids and place it on the bonus games, now known as pricing games. Each show would have 3 items up for bid and 3 pricing games, followed by a showcase which would offer a vast selection of high-quality prizes for the 2 contestants that finished with the highest total winnings. This new version was picked up by CBS in 1972, where it would premiere along with 2 other new game shows, The Joker's Wild and Gambit. It would be called The New Price is Right in order to separate itself from its older format, which, while similar, was also drastically different. The New Price is Right was taped at Studio 33 in Television City in Los Angeles, California, where it initially shared its stage with other productions at the time. This show also would have 2 hosts, one for the daytime version and one for the nighttime version. The daytime network version would be hosted by distinguished game show host Bob Barker, who was also the longtime host of Truth or Consequences at the time. The nighttime syndicated version would be hosted by Dennis James, a longtime radio and television personality known for hosting the first televised game show Cash and Carry and many other shows prior to Price. The New Price is Right would be announced by the well-established Johnny Olson, who had often served as one of the predecessor's substitute announcers when Don Pardo or Johnny Gilbert were unavailable. The show initially had 2 models who presented the prizes offered. Anitra Ford and Janice Pennington brought beauty and grace to The Price is Right. The pricing games would become the true centerpiece of the show. The New Price is Right, as it was then known, started with 3 games: Any Number, Bonus Game, and Double Prices. Any Number is still being played into the show's 54th season, whereas Professor Price was retired after only 2 playings. The show was such a success in its first year that it was decided to drop the word new and refer to the show by the same name that its predecessor had, The Price is Right. It would be paired up with The Match Game and quickly became a true power hour in daytime television. Its popularity continued into 1975, where the idea of possibly expanding the show into 1 hour became a reality. In September of that year, the show experimented with a week of episodes that would go 60 minutes, would feature 2 groups of 3 pricing games for a total of 6 games. In addition, the spinning of a big wheel was introduced, where whoever had the highest score of each group would go on to the showcase. Many shows, including Match Game, were introducing a wheel around this time. The format proved to be a success, and The Price is Right became a full hour in 1975, with this experimented format becoming the standard. This is still the case 50 years later. When Anitra Ford left the show in 1976, she was replaced by Holly Hallstrom, and along with Diane Parkinson, created the most famous team affectionately known as Barker's Beauties. Although there have been many women and men, I'll get into that later, who have served as models since, these are the 3 that are the most well known to all audiences. The daytime version of the show would see continued success, while the nighttime version would start to experience a drop in ratings. It no longer aired as of 1980, and the focus of the show solely turned towards its solidly watched daytime production. In 1981, after the passing of his wife Dorothy Jo, Barker would become known for his animal rights activism and vegetarianism. This would lead to him ending every episode from then on, asking everyone to help control the pet population by having their pets spayed or neutered. The show would see its popularity hit a fever pitch in 1983 when the game Plinko debuted. Plinko was an instant hit and to this day is the most popular game played on The Price is Right. In 1985, a new syndicated version starring Tom Kennedy was created, but only lasted one season as it just wasn't able to keep up with other syndicated shows that were dominating in the ratings, including Staples' Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy! Johnny Olson passed away in 1985 while still serving as the show's announcer. His death was mentioned on the air and left a large hole in the hearts of the show's production team and viewers alike. After a series of auditions, he was replaced permanently by Rod Roddy of Soap and Press Your Luck fame. In 1986, The Price is Right aired 6 primetime specials. These episodes were given the royal treatment with enhanced lighting, bigger prizes, and Bob even wearing a tuxedo as part of the festivities. In March of 1988, Bob Barker became the executive producer of the show after the passing of Frank Wayne. He would hold this position throughout the remainder of his time with The Price is Right. The show continued to see success in daytime television, even as most game shows were canceled during the Game Show Massacre of 1991. This era saw most game shows end only to be replaced by trash talk shows like Jerry Springer. Of all the network game shows, The Price is Right was the only one to survive during this era. Even though it would have been a sacrilege to cancel the legendary show, it still came to a near death during this very dark era for game shows. In 1994, a third syndicated version known as The New Price is Right would premiere starring soap star Doug Davidson and be announced by Burton Richardson. This version would look dramatically different from the daytime version and would not feature a one-bid round at all, instead bringing contestants straight up on stage to play a pricing game. Like the last syndicated version, this one only lasted one season. In 1996, a movie named Happy Gilmore would become a major box office hit. The movie featured Bob Barker playing himself getting into a physical altercation with the lead character played by Adam Sandler. The hit film, in addition to other societal changes, would eventually spearhead a major demographic shift for The Price is Right and begin catering to younger, more exuberant contestants. In 1997, The Price is Right would air a 25th anniversary special. This show would only feature 3 pricing games, however would offer huge prizes to the lucky contestants. It was also used as a way to show off all of the show's most priceless moments, including the Yolanda incident, the Patricia bathroom incident, and of course, the time Bob couldn't quite get the big wheel all the way around. In 1998, Studio 33 at Television City would be renamed the Bob Barker Studio, a permanent reminder of the legendary host. After the September 11th attacks, The Price is Right aired 6 specials honoring men and women in uniform. The success of these specials led to the creation of a new, much more successful series of primetime specials known as the $1 Million Spectaculars. Of course, by the early 2000s, giving away $1 million on primetime game shows had become the standard, and The Price is Right became no exception to the rule. Tragedy would fall upon the staff once again, this time as the show's second announcer, Rod Roddy, would pass away in 2003 after a battle with cancer. After another round of temporary announcers, he would be replaced permanently by meteorologist Rich Fields in 2004. The Price is Right would be featured in the series Game Show Marathon, which was essentially a group of famed game shows hosted by TV talk show icon Ricky Lake. By 2006, it was starting to become obvious that Barker was in advanced age and was becoming impatient with many of the younger contestants the show had become famous for. This was especially noticeable dealing with a contestant named Joy, who struggled to complete bids during 10 chances. On October 31st of that year, Bob Barker announced that his 35th season would also be his last. In his 50th year as a television game show host, Bob Barker retired with his final show airing on June 15, 2007 at the age of 83. And for many audience members, The Price is Right retired with him, as no one would be able to replace the legendary host who had been the MC of the show since it began in 1972. CBS decided to continue running the show with a new host. After an extensive search, Drew Carey, a well-established television star and comedian, was announced as the show's second permanent host. His first episode would air on October 12, 2007, along with an extensive renovation of the set. While no host could ever replace Barker, Carey has often been considered a polarizing figure. While Carey does have his fans, he also has his share of critics. Carey even got off to a fairly rough start during his second season as host. In 2008, he was forced to deal with a contestant named Terry Neese, who guessed his showcase amount right on the nose. The odds of this happening were so low that it was suggested that the contestant cheated. But rather, he took a guess from an audience member, Ted Slauson, who was a Price is Right superfan and was extremely knowledgeable about the prizes. The entire incident was the subject of an outstanding documentary film, The Perfect Bid. In 2010, Fields was relieved of his duties when the production team felt that the show needed an announcer who was strong in improvisational comedy, likely due to Carey's history as host of Whose Line Is It Anyway? In 2011, George Gray became the show's fourth permanent announcer and continues to be in this role as of 2025. He had previously been seen as the host of the syndicated version of The Weakest Link and was surprisingly good in the role. 2012 saw the first male model, Rob Wilson, enter the rotation of people presenting prizes. He was on the show until 2014 when his shoes were filled by James O'Halloran, who has been a staple of the show since. During the 2010s, The Price is Right truly took many leaps. Themed episodes would take place during the daytime version, including special holiday-themed episodes, particularly Halloween. Larger prizes would be offered during Big Money and Dream Car weeks, and more celebrity appearances would take place and would play alongside the regular contestants. In 2015, Bob returned for one day only to host the one bid round as well as a playing of the game Lucky 7. At the age of 91, it would be the last time Bob would grace the stage at Studio 33. And then came 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic changed everything about the world, and television was no exception. The same audience selecting techniques that had been used since 1972 had to be changed to accommodate social distancing, which meant no audience. By 2021, the show had resumed with a small audience set featuring groups of members in pods. This would remain the standard until a big announcement was made in 2023. In an effort to completely renovate the building at Television City, The Price is Right was relocated to Haven Studios in Atwater Village. The new set is outstanding looking, and although it is pretty obviously a different studio, it still keeps many of the original Goodson-Todman features, along with many modern upgrades for high-definition viewing. And as of the recording of this video, The Price is Right has surpassed 10,000 episodes and counting. It is truly the juggernaut of daytime television. Sure, the daytime TV pond has shrunk over the last 50 years, but Price is still the biggest fish in it. Since those earliest days, The Price is Right has become an American icon with merchandise, casino games, scratch-off games, you name it. It is almost impossible not to walk by a random TV on a weekday morning and not see The Price is Right on. It is truly the most legendary game show, breaking records that will likely never be broken. I give The Price is Right 5 stars. What else can I possibly give it? The show is about as close to perfect as can be. Sure, there are a few games that might not be our favorites, but that doesn't in any way bring down the history of this legendary show. 5 stars. This show, The Price is Right, sets the bar extremely high for the rest of this series.